Hello, my name is Owen, and welcome to a quick review of the Fellspyre Chronicles, Book 1. Written by Philip Kennedy Johnson and art by Riccardo Federici. What I'm going to do is a brief overview of what this comic is about, tell you the things that I liked, and tell you the things that I didn't like. Jumping straight into it, this is a dark, high fantasy comic story. It is 12 volumes. It is the complete book one of this world. It was recommended by Josiah Holmes. He left a comment on my last comic video, which is also my first comic I've ever read, the Dark Knights of Steel video, which is the medieval Justice League book. It was my first comic. I stumbled upon the recommendation randomly, and I just jumped into it on a whim. Really enjoyed it, and I asked for recommendations. So Josiah recommended this one. I think it used to be called The Last God, but they rebranded it to the Fellspyre Chronicles Book 1, even though there's only one book, and it came out in like almost 10 years ago, and there's no sequel in sight. As soon as I finished it, I Googled, where's Book 2? And, there is no Book 2. So it's just Book 1, just optimistically, I guess. Not to say as a fantasy fan, I'm not used to waiting a stupid long time for many sequels, but also as a fantasy fan, I know that if you wait too long, it's just not even worth giving any hope about. So whether or not there'll be a book 2, I have no idea, but it's called Book 1. But it is a complete story. So it's the 12 volumes. It's the complete arc of these characters. It's kind of horror, like eldritch horror in a medieval high fantasy world. It's about these group of adventurers in parallel timeline, or not parallel storylines in two different parts of this history. So there's the present day, and there's 30-year prior, where these two parallel adventuring groups went on the same quest, and they're kind of doing this. They're going on the same journey, but it's also reflecting on the effects of the first adventuring party, how that affects the present day. And in the present day group trying to right their wrongs and stumble upon what actually happened on that original adventure, because those original adventures are now legendary heroes in the world. So two adventuring parties on parallel adventures with a 30-year difference. So the story kind of flips back between present day and 30 years past as they enter similar locations, meet similar characters, similar environments, fight similar creatures and stuff like that. And I thought it was very, very interesting in terms of a setup, this idea of two adventuring parties basically going on the same quest and uncovering the secrets of the one from the past. And not only are the secrets uncovered to us, they're uncovered to our adventuring party in the present day as well, because they're kind of learning what these heroes of legend actually were like in real life as they encounter past members or past people that they interacted with on the original adventure. So the world is constantly unfolding itself. You're kind of thrown straight into the deep end in terms of the races, the magic, and the different cities of the world. It seems very in-depth, very intense. The world building is very throw you in the deep end. But in terms of the characters and the relationships, because of this story structure, you don't feel like you're lost on that, because a lot of the main character we have, I think his name is Evendeer or something along those lines. He's kind of in our shoes, where he wasn't a part of this original group. He knows only that they are legendary heroes, but he's kind of learning all this lore and all this backstory on his adventure in the modern day. So we kind of are alongside him, learning this lore and learning these relationships, so it doesn't feel too overwhelming and anything like that. One thing that instantly is a highlight of this story is the art style. It's very dark, it's very creepy, and just opening up to random pages just to give you a taste of what it's like some of the creatures, just what they look like, very spiny, very long-limbed, disgusting monsters, very dark art in general, dark colors, a lot of blacks, purples, reds, and some of these guys are nightmare fuel, and they're not afraid to get really gritty with the art style. There's a lot of brutal deaths in this, brutal violence, very gory action, but also just very beautifully done work. And there's a lot of these before chapters, kind of slightly different art style, but just more very moody art. And I really enjoyed that throughout there. Because I'm so new to comics, I don't really have too much to compare it to. I just know that I enjoyed looking at it. And I feel my bar for comics as I'm delving into this new hobby, I guess, is there pages where I'm that would be cool as a poster, is my barometer, I guess, for for thinking, is that sick art? And there's a lot of pages like that that would be like just sweet to look at, just even out of the context of the story. And I don't know if that's a good metric or not, if it's just going for epicness, but it is epic. There are some moments where I found it a little bit hard as a new comic reader to kind of follow how to read the page. I feel like the Dark Knights of Steel one that I read was very straightforward in terms of like when you're supposed to read left to right, or when you're supposed to read like top to bottom, in terms of like the boxing structure. And I'm probably gonna sound like a total idiot when I'm talking about this because I have no idea what I'm talking about. But there were cases in this one as a criticism, or I guess a commentary on my experience, where like the boxes of the art, and let me know if this makes no sense, the boxes of the art were shaped in a way that guided my eyes against the grain of how I was supposed to be reading it. So I would be like accidentally jumping ahead in parts of conversation. And maybe that's just, I don't have the muscle memory of knowing like the signs of when I'm supposed to be reading like across and down. Am I making any sense? Like for this one, obviously the unbroken boxes, like you read down until there's multiple boxes, then you read left or right. But there are some like more complex ones where like I thought I was supposed to be reading down, but I should have been reading sideways. And sometimes it curves around. You're following the text boxes in a clockwise circle. And it just lost me sometimes. So there were a lot of times where I had to reread dialogue just to make it make sense. And then my only other criticism, I guess, like with the, and I don't know if this is a writing thing or it's an art thing, but there would be boxes where it would like jump completely in terms of like context of where the characters were at. So like someone would be like jumping up about to stab a monster, and the next box would be like them like upside down underwater. Like that didn't happen, but like it'd be like that, and we're like, where did the water come from? Why are you upside down? My imagination can't fill in the blanks between the two. I don't have enough context to what their movement was supposed to be to know how you ended up where you were at. There was a little bit of that as well. But I would say those are the only two criticisms that I had with it. Again, I think a lot of that is just due to my inexperience with the format. I think there's a lot of things that I don't know. I'm not saying I'm trying to say it's a skill to be reading comics that I need to hone or anything, but I just think a lot of that comes with, if you're reading a lot of comics, I'm sure like your eyes just naturally know, just based on the lining and the framing of it, how you're supposed to be reading it. But I do think maybe the context jumping from box to box, I feel like if I were to give my uneducated opinion, it would be like maybe the artist didn't give enough visual cues as to what the movement was specifically. Or maybe the author didn't give enough text that described to the author what, I don't know. I have no idea how it works. I'm just giving you what I thought, okay? But other than that, I think the story overall, one thing I liked about it as well, like you know from the jump that the past adventuring party was not as they claim to be. They're not these heroes of old. They're so good. They're so honorable. They're so heroic. We know instantly from the onset of this world that something went horribly wrong. They did not tell us the whole truth, because that's what incites this new adventuring party to go on the same mission again 30 years later. But what I really liked about this story is that even though you kind of get a general sense of like, okay, let me guess, like the one who's good is like, who's like all honorable is secretly like really bad. Okay, I can see that coming from a mile away just based on the setup of the story. But there are twists in terms of like how their dynamics played out and what specifically led to like fractures in the original party, and what are the deeds that they did that were so horrible. Because you get the sense that they didn't fulfill their promise, but the details of it, the how of it are revealed throughout the story. And I felt like in a surprising way in some cases. And also just like what happened to some of these characters that we don't meet on the outset. Where did they go? What happened to them in the meantime? What happened to them 30 years ago? So I felt like there's constantly on this journey of unveiling more secrets and more lore about these characters. And I was very invested in the present day party, and then I was invested in the party in the past just to reveal their secrets. How did we get, especially the ones that are in both timelines, how did we get to this person in the present day based on what we're seeing from them walking through a forest 30 years ago? There's a big gap for a lot of these characters, and it's so interesting watching them try to get from point A to point B. So that's the case where the story structure I thought was very unique and very entertaining in that way. And I just love like timeline stuff in movies, in books, in TV shows, whatever. I'm like a time travel guy, and this isn't really time travel, but the things that play with time. That's why I like Christopher Nolan movies so much, because he does a lot of that with his movies. Like either time goes too fast, or he structures the movie over like different timelines. Like Dunkirk, he has like 1 day, 1 hour, like 1 minute, or whatever he does with that structure of like each storyline is a different time, and Tenet like plays backwards, stuff like that. I don't know. It's just thinking about time and how you can observe its effects, and in this case, it'd be the effects on the characters, and watching that unfold parallel. I just thought was very satisfying, and it made for great character arcs for a lot of these people. I think that I'm done rambling. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit. But overall, it was very enjoyable. If you guys have any more medieval comics or like fantasy comics, I guess, let me know. I really have no idea in that space what to look for. I'm definitely like in that comic grind now. I just went today actually to the comic store, and I want to get into like some DC like superhero comics like properly. And so I got like the Absolute Batman, Absolute Superman, Absolute Wonder Woman, which I'm going to be reading, which is kind of their jumping off point for a new series for these characters. So very excited to get into that. But reading high fantasy comics was very entertaining, and I want to know, are there more series like this? Maybe not necessarily like the grimdark, gory, like horror fantasy stuff, but just like in general, like knights and swords and magic and stuff like that. Are there good comics that are like that? Let me know, because I truly have no idea. And one final thing that I really liked about this book as well is I am a fan, as you guys can guess, maybe you couldn't guess, I am a fan of Dungeons and Dragons, right? Oh, the guy who reads fantasy books all the time and like this fantasy comic book likes Dungeons and Dragons. Surprise, surprise. I know. But the author also added, I guess he presumed that this is a great world to play Dungeons and Dragons in, which I can see absolutely why. But he also adds, like at the back of the book, like D&D style stats for all these different creatures if you want to like put them in your game and like have your friends fight like these different eldritch creatures, which I think is so cool, by the way. And if I ever the next time, it's not if I ever play again, which I will, I certainly want to add some of these characters into like a campaign or something like that. So I thought it was just a cool little extra thing at the end of the book that he didn't have to do, but he kind of added just to let you bring this world into your own world a little bit. And don't we all need some creatures from the Black Lagoon whose face grows out of their arm and they bite you with fangs of black goo? I don't know. Overall, very entertaining, and I did very much enjoy it. And I hope you guys liked the video. Hope you liked seeing me swim around this space that I'm unfamiliar with and kind of build a love for it, perhaps. Maybe I'll be Comic Bill at the end of the year, right? Who knows? Although I will say, it seems like an expensive hobby, just from the amount of money I've spent already. And I'm still very new at this, and that's kind of concerning to me. I need like an iPad or something where I can read these like for free. But I don't have a screen big enough to be renting these out for the library. I don't. Like I can do it on my phone, but then you're missing it. You're missing the art. You're missing the lookingness. And the lookingness is my favorite part. Be sure to like and subscribe if you like the video and you want to see more like in the future. And as always, thanks for sticking around.